So I want to give you an update on U.S.-Korea relations and a point of view you may not necessarily hear in the USA, as this is the Korean media talking about Trump. Now, Trump has been bragging about how he's making all this money from all the tariffs, right? And then all this money supposedly coming in from outside the USA. Here, Trump's talking about said investments. Have a listen.
트럼프 대통령은 관세 카드를 꺼내 들었습니다.
If we didn't have tariffs, we would have no national security.
그동안 미국이 바보처럼 손해만 봤다며 이제는 공정한 대가를 받아야 한다고 주장했습니다. 그러면서 한국도 콕 집었습니다.
And that includes with the European Union, that includes with Japan and South Korea. All we want to do is be treated fairly. But the fairly is hundreds of billions and even trillions of dollars coming into the United States. And
구체적인 액수
So according to Trump, treated fairly is hundreds of billions or even trillions to the United States. And then our headlines basically in Korea is that Trump wants a bunch of cash. Trump wants it up front, wants it in advance. And it's kind of bizarre. And just think about this, guys. Just say you're living in France or Canada, Australia, or whatever. And just imagine if your headlines were Trump demands, billions of dollars, actually hundreds of billions of dollars from your country. Like how do you think the local people would take that? Obviously, we would just be like, what the heck are you talking about? So then this is the Korean population, sort of regular people, what they're saying. One, you didn't even graduate from elementary school. How can you be fair? Another Korean says, you can't negotiate with a thug. A thug doesn't negotiate, he extorts. So basically, people think Trump's a criminal. Another person, Korea also wants fair compensation. Let's put everything on the table. Another person writes, don't you know what fairness means? And another one, never give it away. It's not an investment, it's a ripoff. And another person says, how can you give that money you don't have? Just accept the tariffs. Because basically what Trump is saying to Korea is, if you don't give me the tariff or don't give me the upfront cash that I can control and direct myself, then you're going to have 25% tariffs on goods. If you do give me the cash, then you only get 15% tariffs. So then the tariffs don't even go away. It's a horrible deal. And obviously, I don't think anyone's going to take it. But then Trump keeps bragging like all the money's coming in and they're all so rich. So it obviously doesn't add up. It's clearly a lie. This is on day 18 of the government shutdown because if we're all this money were coming in, you think that the people giving it would know about it. And you also would think that why would we even be shut down if we're supposedly so rich? This is also in the Korean news. It's actually a pretty big story. I'll be curious also to hear, how people in Europe or in other places are reporting it. But basically, they're talking about the reporters that walked out of the Pentagon. And my understanding of it was, if you guys remember this whole thing, Pete Hegseth and them were saying you got to sign this loyalty pledge. You have to only do a pre-approved stories. And this was actually reported in the Korean news. And the words that they were using actually to talk about Hegseth, they were talking about warped or twisted. It was sort of the translations. They were also saying that Hegseth was wanting to do lie detector tests, etc. There was how did I say it? Like a sort of sadness in the Korean news report today, where it was basically saying, USA used to be, freedom and democracy and have journalism sort of thing, where now Trump is really cracking down on that. And we had to translate one word, which is kind of difficult to translate, but the Koreans use a particular word and it translates to anachronistic, I think was the right word we translated. But basically it was saying that the stuff that the Trump and Hegseth were saying doesn't match what they're trying to do. That's the best translation. If you guys have a better translation of anachronistic, but it just basically the stuff doesn't make sense. The things that they do don't match. And sometimes they'll say things that just are out of order. That's the best way to describe it. Let me read some more Korean comments on this stuff. The Ministry of Defense is a young guy, one person says, and in Asia, age is respected, so it's kind of strange in some of these high level positions that one, pick a Fox News host, of course, and then two, pick a Trump person. And that's something I also want to mention. They mentioned very clearly too, and even in the Korean news, that even Fox News didn't sign on to that loyalty pledge thing, which is a big deal, right? So they're saying basically what's going on in USA, it looks terrible. Another person writes, they're mobilizing the military and keeping their mouth shut, and they're giving them the Nobel Peace Prize. Like it doesn't make sense. I want to beat up the people who are like that. Come to your senses, right? This is the first time I've seen this pathetic American thing in my life. Another person writes, referring to Korean President Yoon, the former one, if Yoon hadn't been impeached, we would have ended up like that too. And that's Suk-yeol, but that's his first name, basically. Another person, Hegseth and Charlie Kirk are identical. Their speech and gestures are eerily similar. The defense, which I don't know. I'd be curious your thoughts. I hadn't thought that, but that's what Korean pointed out. Another person writes, the Secretary of Defense guy is a prime example of authoritarianism, ignoring the weak, but everyone from Trump on down on those who work under him has a dirty look. So that's coming from Koreans. They feel like Trump people have dirty looks. This is also actually a big deal. This is actually in my hometown, Portland, Oregon. They were showing, I think this is a National Guard, should be a general, and then talking about the use of the National Guard in Oregon. And then they showed a little bit of testimony where the guy is trying to make the case that they're there to protect Oregonians. And what was interesting about this, and this is something that they often show in the Korean media, is sort of like that there's more than one side, and they also show direct translation. So like they're literally like translating every word of it. There's one part here where I thought was interesting. There's a memo that was sent out, and they translated all of it. And I'll read the memo, the part they translated. It says, I know some of you may have strong feelings about this mission. This is the National Guard in Portland. That's okay. You are citizens first, but you're also service members who took an oath to support and defend the Constitution and follow the orders of the president and the governor. That oath doesn't come with an asterisk that says, only when I agree with the mission. We don't get to pick and choose. We execute lawful orders with professional and honor, and period. That's what sets us apart. That's what makes us a National Guard. And so this is actually a very, very sensitive topic in Korea, because if you guys don't know, the former president, President Yoon, did try to do a martial law, which was obviously terrible. I mean, it's obvious, but I laugh there because there's still, we have like a MAGA type people in Korea, the same way you guys have MAGA in USA, where there's like, no matter how crazy people are, some people still support it. But they do show this. I mean, they show social media in USA how, hey, I'll read it. It says, now this is integrity. This is what dedication to the Constitution looks like, not one man. This is the courage we've all been waiting for, and more on this, right? So basically they're showing that we're having this sort of same constitutional, problems in USA that they had in Korea, and people want integrity, right? They don't want like just people who are just loyal to Trump, and then they also, point out that there are MAGA type people. But I just want to show you that. And then this is actually footage from what happened in Korea, and then we had a big, hearings after such. And again, the former president was basically just like Trump. I tried to do the same thing. So again, and it's a different situation here. We ended up taking to the streets. The people did it peacefully and impeached the guy. And then here they're also talking about praising Portland, how they're doing it peacefully. And this is a different flavor of protest, right? With the characters, which I think is honestly really effective. And I'll be also honest, I'm really proud of Portland, the way that they're handling it right now. I think they're doing great with the peaceful protests. Keep it peaceful, guys. This is also what's going on here. Let me show you some more. It says here, American journalists are cool. It's referring to the walkout of the Pentagon and not wanting to sign the loyalty pledge. Other people say, who would have thought that America would end up like that? It's fortunate that the media is still alive, even though things are getting worse. Another person says, anyone who deploys military forces against their own people is not in their right mind. And again, Korea just went through this, and also it's in Korean history. I recommend several movies in the past. You can find links below which ones I recommend watching. But learn from what happened in Korea, because it's very similar. I'm serious. What's happening right now in USA, and you'll see how it ultimately got resolved. America's becoming a dictatorship, and the country is falling apart. Another comment. This again from Korea. Trump doesn't realize he's the biggest problem. He's in a position that doesn't fit his abilities, and the country will suffer. And I always like to share this with you guys, because oftentimes, you may feel like you're alone, depending on where you live in USA. But just understand, you are definitely not alone. Most of the world really, really doesn't like what's going on in USA, right? Can see that Trump and Hegseth are incompetent. All of Trump's people are dirty in one of the Korean words, Korean person's words. So, they even translate the stuff that Trump says over here, and people can still clearly see that Trump is bad. I just want to make sure clear that you're not alone. But I do also want to show you what Trump people say because, well, see what he said. This is Navarro here.
But let's think about this. You can't have the manufacturing jobs until what? Until the plants get built. We got $19 trillion. Let me say that one more time. $19 trillion of investment promised to come into this country. Now, construction is going to boom in the short run, but we're not going to see the manufacturing jobs until that capacity gets built. So it'll be 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. But what we're doing is setting the stage for the construction of a beautiful addition to our manufacturing base. And by the way, like, this is how smart, not me, but we are as an administration. It's like when we're cutting these trade deals and Japan's offering to invest here in America, that money, you know how we're going to use that money? That money is specifically targeted at vulnerabilities in our supply chain.
Wow. Okay. So, and he was talking about Japan, but Korea's in this also because suddenly we have $19 trillion coming to USA. It's like, okay, so like, wouldn't Japan, Korea, or even Europe know about this? or just more simply, like, if you live in USA, wouldn't you see these factories being built now? Wouldn't you hear these big announcements of all these trillions of dollars? That's why it's all a lie. It's obvious, right? And it's crazy that anyone believes it or goes along with it. I honestly don't think many people do. I think they do know it's BS, but yes, there's still some of the MAGA people that probably think it's true. But that's what's going on. I also want to show, that's kind of the nutty stuff, but I also want to show some of the more serious stuff. I'll just say this. This is in Portland. This is my hometown. I am concerned about what's happening. And let me read it. It says here, Aloha is a city in the Portland area. Aloha man charged with aiming a laser at a Customs, Border, and Protection helicopter and drug trafficking. Brian Keith Capilio Nepal, 38, of Aloha actually, has been charged by criminal complaint with pointing a laser at a U.S. Customs and Border helicopter and possessing, I guess, some sort of drug with the intent to distribute. So that's an interesting one here. The reason why I'm concerned is because, laser, is it like, are you playing a flashlight? Was a laser like a laser on a rifle or what? I'm concerned about the whole situation because I think this is, how can I say? I'll just say this could escalate. And there's a lot of people who have weapons in USA. I'll just say that, and I'll just leave it at that. And I'm just always tracking this stuff. So I prefer no violence from either side, any side. I don't want Americans fighting each other. So in this situation, I just read what it says. So I'll let you guys be the judge of that. And then this is also what's going on. DHS, while the government is shut down, supposedly DHS is still getting paid. So that'd be Department of Homeland Security. So it'd be the ICE agents. And then you had this crazy footage of this guy who was pulled over for a DUI, so drinking and driving, basically drunk and under influence. And he was claiming he was part of ICE. So listen to this.
The guy in the white shirt.
That's the colonel.
Colonel, don't mean shit to me.
Okay, well.
I'm federal.
Okay.
I'm trying to get home. I got my boys with me.
Who do you work for?
DHS.
Do you have your ID with you?
No, I don't.
Okay. But if I called them, they'd verify that you're a
100%, bro.
So then he's like, I don't have my ID, and he's claiming he's, part of DHS, which is, probably going to be ICE people or whatever. But whether or not he's really DHS, who knows? Honestly, who knows? The thing that's kind of ridiculous about this, there's a lot you can say about this event. You may have seen this clip already, is that if this person, we'll just say I'll just say be clear, if he wasn't white, he may have been treated much differently. And I think anyone who's honest about this stuff knows this kind of thing. He resisted a bit here also.
That's not okay. You don't want to get hit. You don't want you to get hit. That's why I'm trying to do the exercise. That way we can move on.
Are you Haitian?
That's nothing to do with my wrist, buddy.
My question was,
Which is
Haitian?
really irrelevant to ask someone if they're Haitian or not when you're getting pulled over for, again, a DWI. His kids were in the car also, and he had an attitude. And the officers who arrested him were actually pretty polite, considering. And, you see a lot of these kind of stuff. So as I said, if you watch this stuff, it is aggravating, and especially if you're someone of color, you'll know that you couldn't get away with this kind of attitude and with certain officers. So I always want to make the case that not every officer is bad or behaves certain ways, but we've seen how these kind of scenarios can play out if you know, we'll just say if the wrong combination is there. And so they're trying to they're trying to put the guy away in the car, and he's like kind of resisting a bit. He's just...
Come on, put your feet in.
Stand up.
Stand up, come on.
Stand up. Put your feet in. No.
Man,
Put
don't
your
be a
feet in.
kid. Come on.
Stop.
Where are my kids?
Stand up. Put your feet in.
What?
Put your feet in. Put your feet in.
And it's a pretty long video, but I just wanted to point that out where these kind of situations these days, it's hard to say because these people are masked when they are ICE agents or whatever, and then people can complain whenever can claim whatever what they want or whatever, and then he says he has no ID. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can go on with this, but this is where we live right now in USA, and you also have people who are saying, I'll call ICE on you. This is actually at a baseball game. This particular person ended up getting banned from the stadium, I guess, for life. So there's that. You're going to start to see more and more of this kind of stuff. And I combine all this news, like how people are seeing it from the outside, how people are seeing it from the inside. And honestly, you got to pull yourself sort of away from these sort of things and just think about like the system as a whole, how it's completely unsustainable. And this is not what we want. You want leadership that unifies and is just like, guys, cut it out. and a lot of it too is you want a system in place to where like we're telling people the truth about stuff. So it's hard in these days when, Trump is setting this culture of like, I just lie nonstop about how rich people are, which clearly not the case. And then you got this system where we're sending Americans like basically giving bounties, essentially is what it ends up being, in quotas to, go attack people in the USA's. Then you got hackers who are supposedly now, this just came out today, doxing some of the ICE agents. I mean, I'm sure if you really look, you can probably start to find stuff like that. That's going to be all kinds of investigations and issues. I'm not saying, I'll just say that. And then Trump's trying to abolish the Department of Education, which has been a long-running thing that the Republicans want to do because they hate education. And it's going to end up hurting a lot of people, I'm going to be frank. And it's going to hurt people in blue states, red states. They're going after basically the highest, low-income school districts, plus it'll affect the Office of Civil Rights, Disabilities Education Act, right? So oftentimes special ed gets hurt first. Like people in the most need, Native American schools, historically black colleges, these kind of things. That's who they're going with. TRIO, any number of things. And this has actually been an interesting one if you want to understand sort of Trump's ultimate game plan here. They've been removing some of the tariffs on particular items. So basically what it ends up being is that if you pay Trump a bribe, he'll say, oh, well, I'll remember for you. And it'll be like weird stuff. It'll be like, for example, they put a couple things in here. I think it was like LED lights. So to be like, if a certain company needs LED lights to get through from China, like, oh, okay, well, you gave me the bribe. Okay. Or certain chemicals or medical products, whatever. You're right. You guys see how that game will be played. But I'll just say this. This is where we are right now in the latest AP poll. Disapproval, Trump 61, approval 37. So again, if you can see the corruption and you don't like it, you are not alone. That's the majority. How low can Trump's approval get? There's still always going to be some crazy MAGA people out there that are going to be like, oh yeah, I love corruption, or they're easily lied to, or probably the best way to describe it is they're low information people. Just be frank with you guys. They don't really pay attention to news that much, and they just say, oh, well, I voted for Trump once every 4 years or whatever, and that's all I do to participate. But for those of you who do pay attention, I mean, it's pretty obvious that these people are the worst in history. And I'm just being frank with you guys about stuff. It's hard to be honest and objective about it and say that they're not bad. Clearly, the Trump people are bad, and the Republicans behind closed doors know it also. It's just they've sort of built this monster with Fox News, and the question would be is like, can we, I guess, unmonster the monsters? I don't know if that's a word to say, or demonster the monster. But we're going to find out. And essentially what we need to do, though, is, again, unify the people and try to bring the temperature down. But at the moment, this is where we're at. I would like to see disapproval higher. Maybe it'll hit 70. You never know. But that's where we are. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. Do appreciate your time, everyone. And I'll catch you on the next video.